Hey guys, and welcome to a beginner's tutorial on how to animate using FlipaClip. It's a free downloadable software that you can download on mobile. It's best to use a stylus with this app, but you can use it with your finger if you want. Okay, so in order to create a project in animation, you tap this plus button down here. This creates the project. Up here, you can name your animation. I'm just going to name this tutorial. Then here you can choose your background. Usually you're going to want to have different backgrounds for different shots. So what you can do is you can change the background color to white by going over here and making it white. You can choose your frames per second. Most people use 24 frames per second and do twos, which is doing 2 frames every drawing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be basic and I'm going to use 12 frames per second, which is 1 frame each, and use ones, which is 1 frame each drawing. If you know that you're not going to use ones ever with 24 frames per second, then you can just use 12 frames per second. So let's create the project. Now once we go in here, the first thing we're going to want to do is make 3 layers. This layer is going to be called color, because this is the final layer the color is going to be on. Obviously, for more complex projects, you're going to have more layers, but this is just a basic one. For this one, we're going to have rough. This is just going to have a rough drawing of the stuff that's in our shot. And for this, we're going to have background. This is going to be the background that we're going to use for this shot. So, making backgrounds. So for the background, you can do a simple line. To make a line, you tap this ruler up here, and you move this down. And then you use the pin, put the pin on it, and then drag across it. This will make a straight line. Now, in order to color it in, you can simply use the bucket. Move this to the color you want to do. We're going to make the grass green. And tap on the grass, or the area that you want to fill in if it's something else, to change the color. For the sky, we'll just use a simple blue. And for the sun, we can use, again, the ruler tool and a circle this time. What we can do is we can make the circle smaller by moving these little points right here down, moving it up to the corner, and again, taking a pencil and drawing around the edge. For this, we're going to want to use yellow because the sun is orange, but in cartoony drawings, which this is going to be, it's usually yellow. Now, if you want to get the same color, the exact same color as something else you used, you tap this little thing right here, and then you drag this, it's called an eyedropper by the way, over to the color that you want to do, and you let go. Now you have the exact same color. Tap it twice to fill it completely in. Alright. For a rough drawing, there's 2 ways you can do this. One way you can do this is you can draw a rough for every frame, and then trace over those roughs for every frame. This is good when you want to have dynamic movements and dynamic effects. But this is just going to be a really basic jumping animation. So, we're going to do the other method where you create your character and then you just manipulate the character you first created in all your other frames. Let's just make a little blob here. Let's get rid of this circle and let's make a little blob. The rough doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be a rough drawing of what you want to do. You don't need to erase any lines on this layer. We'll have 2 eyes right here and a mouth. And perfect. Now we go to color. We change to the ink pen. We go to black for the outlines. And then we trace over the lines that we want to use for our final product. And then we trace over the eyes that we want to use. For the eyes, we can do a thing where we fill it in with black. And then we put little white things up here. Well, first we make the pupils and the irises. They're going to be the same color. And we just make them black or brown, actually. And then you can add little white dots up here to add a cutesy effect. Then we'll just make a simple mouth and color in with black. Perfect. Now we can just color in the body any color you want. I'm just going to use green. And there we go, we have our character. A very basic character. Now, we don't want to use the rough anymore. So what we can do is we can tap on this number 100 right here to disable it. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to use this. This is the tool that we use to distort the image. What we do is we circle around the image and we can move it around all around the place now. We're going to put this at the top of the image because we're making a jump animation. Actually, we're going to put it at the bottom because it's not like a bouncing animation, it's a jump. Alright, so there's two ways that you can animate. The first way is straight ahead. With this method, you just draw the first frame, and then the second frame, and then the third frame, and so on. This method is good for like things that you don't really know what's going to be at the start and what's going to be at the finish. Like fire, for example. You just go with the flow when you're animating fire. However, we do know where the top of the jump is and where the bottom of the jump is. So we're going to use pose to pose. Pose to pose is where you have two poses, the keyframes, and you draw in between those keyframes in order to make your animation. And then we'll put one more of these over here. Alright, now, next we're going to do our extremes. The extremes are the most it's going to go in any direction. So further down, we're going to make an extreme that's squishy. This looks kind of like a blob, and blobs are generally pretty squishy. So we're just going to lower it down and stretch it out. This is a technique called squash and stretch. You can use squash and stretch to portray mass and speed and add a little bit of bounce to your animation. Since this is a blob, it's going to have a lot of squash and stretch. Alright, now we're going to draw a frame right here where it's really stretched. This is because when it's moving fast, it's going to have a lot of stretch. There's sometimes you want to use squash and stretch and others that you don't. For example, you are going to squash and stretch. Like you are going to squash and go. Alright, let's move on. Cut that out. Okay, so we're going to put this right here, and then we're going to put one more in between right here. This one is going to be also a frame where he's going fast. We can't just copy and paste this because you can't do that. In order to copy and paste, all you have to do is tap on this, or tap and hold. Tap these two pieces of paper. This is how you copy. And then you tap this clipboard right here to paste. We're going to copy and paste this one. We're going to paste it over here. And we're going to have it squashed down because it's taking the impact. Now, you can tell what it's doing, but you need some more emphasis. First, we're going to add some still frames where it's just standing still, so people know that it's doing one jump at a time and not bouncing. Now, we're going to add some breakdowns. This is just adding one frame in between each frame. So we're going to take this. This is what we're going to be copying and pasting for the rest of the time. And we're going to put this right here. There's this thing called ease in and ease out. where in between spaces, you change the spacing. So for example, when you're easing in, it's going to go slow, slow, and steadily pick up the pace. Like when you're running, you have to accelerate before you're at full speed. And then when you stop, you can't just abruptly stop because that looks like you're getting hit by a wall. Instead, you have to slowly stop. Alright, now we're going to add a little bit of a breakdown right here. We're going to make this a bit thinner because it's not supposed to be that thick. And then I'm going to add a breakdown here in between these two frames. By the way you can see the different frames is onion skin. If you tap on edit, you can use these. I have 2 frames before and 2 frames after. You can change it from 1 to 5. Now I'm using the premium version, and I'm not sure if you can do this on the regular version. Alright. Now I'm going to move this right here closer to this because of ease in and ease out. There are some times that you don't want to use ease in and ease out. Like for example, right here when you abruptly stops, if it's an abrupt stop, you're not going to ease in and ease out. It's just going to go straight there, like splat. But when he's going to the top, you do want to use ease in and ease out. And when he's falling, you do want to use ease in and ease out. Alright, now we have basic breakdowns. Now we just need to add in-betweens. In-betweens are pretty much just drawing in between the frames, as the name suggests. So we're going to go ahead and distort this. You can use the onion skins to in between the frames. However, this isn't always what you should do, because it could look inorganic if you do this. This is just what I'm going to do for this, because it's supposed to be quick. I'm going to do the same thing with this one, but it needs to be in between the first 2 because of ease in and ease out. Perfect. Now, it's not going to have that much ease when he first takes off the ground, but we do need to add one little frame right here, or else it's going to look like he has insane jumping explosiveness, which is a blob, and he most likely doesn't have that much explosive force. Now, since we're at the top, we're going to do some more easing. We're going to distort this. Actually, what we should do is you can do the thing where if you circle the objects and then tap copy up here, now you can go to another frame and you can paste it in this frame. It's pretty handy. Now it's going to start falling. We can go ahead and copy this frame and paste it here, and then it's going to fall, splat, and then we just need to have a couple of in-betweens as it goes up. So we're going to copy this frame and paste it. As for it not to be that distorted, even though it's going to be a bit distorted, we're going to draw directly in between them. We're going to distort it so it's directly in between them. You can always draw each of these frames by hand, which makes it a bit more elusive. And it's better if you want to have like more, I don't know how to say it, but like more flexibility in your thing versus it being rigid. And for example, if we did draw every frame, we could do a thing where we have the ends of the blob go up when it hits the ground. That way, you can see that it's a blob more. And then we're going to put one more frame in between these two. And then we'll be about finished. And there we go. We have a quick little animation. Now that's it for this tutorial. This is just a tutorial for beginners. If you want me to do more tutorials, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you all later.